Hey, everybody, welcome to this week's episode of Hormonally Speaking. We got a special extra episode this week. I'm excited to talk to today's guest, who is Dr. Sharon Stills, and she is a naturopathic medical doctor who helps perimenopausal and menopausal women to pause and evaluate life so they can live the second act of their story stronger, healthier, and sexier while aging backwards. Ooh, that sounds good. I like that. Using her 20 plus years of experience and extensive training and background in European biological medicine, anti aging therapies, and bioidentical hormone replacement, she has successfully helped thousands of women transition gently through the different stages of their life and with all natural methods. Dr. Stills is passionate about spreading the word about her signature red hot sexy Meno pause program, the philosophy she developed for you to reinvent your health, explore your spirit, and discover your sexy so that you too can create and live the life you desire and deserve. Even better, she founded and ran one of the largest and most successful naturopathic clinics in the country for a decade and is the host of the Science of Self Healing podcast. She's an expert physician for Women's Health Network, and she educates other physicians as the co lead North American lecturer for the Paracelsus Academy in Switzerland. Patients work with Dr. Stills in a variety of ways through telemedicine consults and her life changing retreats for individuals or small groups in healing and rejuvenating locations around the world. Some patients will fly out to see her or fly her in just to get the chance to work with her one on one. Welcome, Dr. Stills.
Thank you. That's a long bio, and I'm thinking I have to change that bio because I have the word anti-aging in there, and I'm so about pro-aging
Oh,
or
I like
awesome
that.
aging and not anti-aging. So you reminded me that I got to go in and change my bio.
Isn't it? It's so funny that happens to me sometimes too. You kind of forget what's all in your bio until you get on something like this, and then you're like, "Oh, I need to update that." And let's start with that because I think that's really interesting, right? Is so much out there is talking anti-aging. So, what moved you from saying anti-aging to this pro-aging model?
I just feel like anti-aging has such a negative connotation. Like, we don't want to age. No, no, we're going to stop that. And I'm all about aging gracefully and
Hmm.
aging. And I tend to think that aging is a
Yeah,
privilege. And
100%. Yes.
we all don't get that privilege. And so aging is awesome. And aging is about embracing your wisdom and your life experience and having this ability, especially as a woman, to just step into who you are and really own it. So I'm all about aging. I never think, oh, I wish I was in my 20s or my 30s again. I just appreciate every moment and every year and every decade for what it has to offer.
Absolutely. And I 100% would never want to go back to my 20s or 30s. Nope, done with that. And, I teach in one of my programs about so many other cultures, maybe that are more steeped in sort of their traditional ways and awareness. That shift to menopause is not as hard, right, as it is often here for women in the US or Western countries. And, part of that is sort of, I see this disconnection from these natural processes, right? And all of the good things that can come in. What are some of the reasons that you see maybe women struggle more with both perimenopause and menopause here in the US?
And I just want to speak to what you just said because there's so much truth in that. So one of the things I love to do for women is run a crone ceremony for them
Oh,
because
yeah.
in the native tradition, when you stop losing your blood to the earth, it's considered that now you're retaining that wisdom. You're not losing it every month.
Mm.
And so it's an opportunity to celebrate. The women in the native traditions are wise, they are revered, they have this important place in the tribe. And we in America have been fed this line of BS that, oh, as you get older, you're going to get old, you're going to get fat, you're going to get cranky, you're going to not want sex, and we might as well just put you out to pasture
Yeah.
like a cow because you're useless now. And
Yeah.
so I'm really about changing that conversation, about giving women permission to step into their power and be excited about this time of life.
I think that's so incredibly important right now, right? Because I think about this a lot, that we are at a time in history where women, have been put into these boxes at all ages, right? At You were supposed to be, very like fertile and, having children and doing all those things, or looking for that and trying to make that happen in your 20s. And then you were supposed to like raise your kids and, do that in your 30s and 40s. And then, like you said, kind of be put out to pasture in your 50s, 60s, and beyond. And I find that this is the time where all of those ages, women are saying that this is not me. This is not what I want to do. This is not what I'm called to do in my life, even though society has told me that this is what I'm supposed to be doing in my life. And particularly, I feel this massive shift for women, 40s, 50s, 60s, and beyond right now happening, right? Of We're just like, we're not putting up with those old ideas or ideals anymore, right? And really starting to find ourselves. Do you find that women that come to see you, do they struggle with this process, or are they kind of like, okay, I'm ready to embrace it?
I think it's all across the board. And I think, to go back and answer the first question you had
Mm-hmm.
about why are women having so many issues, and
Mm-hmm.
part of it is because we are out of touch with our cycles, with our circadian rhythm,
Mm-hmm.
with being in tune with the menstrual process and the different phases of the menstrual process that we tend to push away or we don't have time for. And I always go back and think about the red tent. And when women were bleeding, they would go to the tent, and women in a community would bleed together because they would
Mm-hmm.
sync up with each other. And so we have lost that community, and we have lost the ability to give ourselves permission, or to take space or make space for, oh, I'm on my cycle right now, I'm going to be inward.
Yeah.
We just push, 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 and we've adapted this normal way of thinking that, oh, of course I get cramps, and of course I pop Advil and lay in bed all crawled up and suffer. That's just what happens.
Mm-hmm.
So it really does go back to starting to teach the younger girls, and starting to celebrate when they have their menses, and welcoming them into sisterhood, and explaining to them what this means, and giving them permission to listen to the wisdom of their body and interact properly. And so, a lot of times when we get to menopause or perimenopause in our Western US based society, we're struggling because we didn't pay attention to all the signs previously. We had trouble conceiving, we had horrible PMS, we didn't get our cycles, we had all these things going on, and we just thought it was part of the way it works. We
Yeah.
never realized that this was our body saying, hello, you're out of balance, pay attention to me. And so I'm a huge fan of pre-gaming the menopause transition from the very beginning. If you're starting to have issues, if you're not having regular for you cycles, or you're having horrible PMS like I was,
Yep.
or you're having trouble conceiving, or you're bleeding really heavy, or you have migraines or acne or mood swings or insomnia, or all of these things that we
Mm-hmm.
see going on, this is a time to say, I got to pay attention to my health.
Absolutely. And, I think back to when I actually got my period real young, maybe not so young for now, but I was 10. And I have told this story to people that I was actually really excited about it. I was like, I am a woman. I was like super excited. And all of my friends were like, I was not excited when it came, and that mentality of, it's such a burden, or a cross to bear, that women throughout their lives have to carry this, and so often we end up becoming disconnected to those signals because we'll be on birth control for anywhere from a few years to most of our cycling years, and I'm sure you've seen this too, women that come in their late 40s and they're still on birth control because their doctors have told them that this is how their hormones are being regulated, and so here we are in this whole sort of process of disconnection. So of course, yeah, the body's gonna not be responding so well to us, in this process, because it's really trying to let us know what's happening. So, what are some of the biggest things that you see in terms of, that going into perimenopause, into the menopausal transition that women are really facing?
Well, the first thing I'd like to say is I take a very firm stand on birth control. And if a patient's going to work with me, they have to be off of it. And if you're listening and you have younger daughters or nieces, or you're on birth control, I really implore you to look into getting off of it, especially if you're on it because you were put on it for a medical
Right.
condition. There's really no medical reason that birth control will fix. And if you're on it to prevent pregnancy, I get that, but the detrimental effects of taking those synthetic harmful hormones and suppressing your natural cycle can very often, I see it catch up to women later, whether it be in the diagnosis of breast cancer or an autoimmune disease. And so I really am a big fan of you looking for other ways of birth control. And I wish I had like the $1 million answer,
Oh,
just
me
do
too.
this.
I know, right?
I don't.
Yeah, yeah,
But learning
yeah,
your rhythm, learning when you ovulate, avoiding sex around ovulation. And there are ways by looking at your mucus and your temperature and things that
yeah,
you can, and it's just a way to get really more in tune with your body.
absolutely.
So some of the things you asked that women come in with, and a
Mhm.
lot of times women come in and they don't even realize they're in perimenopause because they've just been told, oh, you couldn't possibly be in perimenopause. You're only 42.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, as we get more and more toxicity coming at us and the food is demineralized and we're more stressed, I see women going into perimenopause even sometimes in their late 30s. So
Yep.
it's something you always have to be thinking about. If someone tells you it's not your hormones, it very well may be, and maybe you need to ask someone else, because sadly, we'd like to think that we could trust like our OBGYNs, like they are the keepers of our femininity and our hormones. They're just not properly trained. And so you really got to look outside for someone who really understands hormones and root cause medicine and terrain-based medicine and all of these things. So I see women coming in sometimes not for the reason that I'm there. When
Mm.
once they're there, that I'm happy they're there to see me, because
Hmm.
sometimes women don't even think, oh, I need to go see Dr. Stills because I'm not sleeping or because I'm moody. They're more driven by, I'm gaining weight,
Hmm. Hmm.
hair is falling out,
Hmm.
all of a sudden my skin is weird, um, followed by, I'm having night sweats, I don't feel like myself, I feel like I'm going crazy.
Hmm.
And so it really runs the gamut. It could be urinary tract infections, it can be having weird periods where they're not coming, or they're confused, or they're coming too soon, or their bleeding has changed, or they're getting really bad cramping. Migraines will drive someone in. So it really, I always kid around, but I'm so about prevention. And so
Hmm.
I wish that we lived in a world where women would wake up and be like, I feel amazing this morning, so I'm going to call Dr. Stills and make an appointment so I can keep feeling amazing.
Right,
But,
right.
but that's not how we are driven. We're driven by pain. And
Right.
often when we have something go on, we kind of push it aside. We don't pay attention to it because we're all busy, 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 and we're all
Yep.
going, going, going. And it's not until sometimes it gets really bad that we're like, okay, I'm going to pick up the phone now. So I would love to see that change. I would love women to be on a journey of hormonal health and just health in general from the beginning to that's how it used to be in traditional Chinese medicine.
Right.
They would not have to pay if they got sick because it meant the acupuncturist, the oriental medical doctor wasn't doing their job.
Yep. Yep.
And so
And we're the total opposite.
yeah, I would love to see a return to that. That would just excite me.
That'd be amazing. I know. So let's talk about that time. Like, I think, well, I'll just say this based off of a lot of the clients that I see that, the late 30s, certainly things are starting to change, but they may not notice as much because their period's still relatively regular, right? And then starting to get into the 40s, that early to mid 40s is when there's maybe some more obvious symptoms of the skipping of the periods, and ovulatory cycles, that kind of thing. And maybe I see often like a lot of mood changes and stuff like that starting to happen in a bigger way there. Also, adrenals are not happy, at that point. Many years of things leading up to that. But are you a proponent of testing hormones to see where things are at, or do you kind of go more based on symptomology and work from there, or is it a combination of the two?
So it really depends where the woman is. In perimenopause, there's not a great deal of value in testing because the hormones are going all over the place. And
Mm-hmm.
so test on Monday and you're at a peak of the roller coaster, you might have
Mm-hmm.
very high levels and be like, oh, you're fine. And
Yeah.
if you tested, so I tend to go more symptom based
Mm-hmm.
then,
Mm-hmm.
just from all my years of experience.
Mm-hmm.
But if there are testing, like you could do saliva testing throughout the month. You take a
Yeah.
sample every couple of days, which could have some value. As I've practiced longer and longer, I kind of always know what it's going to say, so I don't waste people's money
Yeah.
anymore.
Yep.
But that's the only time where saliva-based testing is really accurate. Once you're on hormones, saliva will be falsely elevated, and a
Right.
lot of women get misguided there as
Right.
well. So
Right.
I'm huge on testing as far as hormones. Certainly once someone is postmenopausal, you're doing 24-hour urine testing. I won't prescribe bioidenticals unless someone is doing continual, at least once a year, twice a year, 24-hour urine testing, so I can
Mm-hmm.
see how it's metabolizing and see what's
Mm-hmm.
going on. I don't really do a lot of blood-based testing because it's not very accurate for cortisol, for progesterone, for estrogen. You can't see the metabolites. You can get somewhat of a good read with DHT and testosterone and free testosterone in the blood, and definitely thyroid hormones and the whole
Mm-hmm.
panel. I rely on blood, as well as symptoms and temperatures and things of that nature. So yes, I am a big fan of test, don't guess when appropriate.
Inappropriate, right? What do you think about blood spot testing? Is that useful at all? Dried blood spot?
For hormones,
Mm-hmm.
I'm old school. I've been doing this for 20 years. I am a big fan of 24-hour urine testing.
Mm-hmm.
We even seen, like the lab has taken like even the dried urine for spots, and they're just not as accurate as collecting your actual urine for 24 hours.
Gotcha.
So
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty anal about that because
Yeah.
it's for the patient's safety.
Yeah.
I mean, it helps me as the prescriber to guide, but it's
Yeah.
really for their safety. I mean, I can't tell if estrogen is metabolizing down a
Mm-hmm.
protective pathway or it's going to damage your DNA. And estrogen gets this real bad rap that it's bad, that it's dangerous, that it causes cancer, and that's
Mm-hmm.
not true. There are actually estrogens that I can see the breakdown of, that when I'm working with a woman who has breast cancer, I will actually be prescribing bioidentical estrogens to help treat her. And of course,
Mm-hmm.
progesterone and testosterone and
Mm-hmm.
DHEA and
Yes.
oxytocin and pregnenolone and all the good stuff.
All the good stuff. Yeah. Yeah. I definitely I've talked a lot on the podcast about those pathways, the 2OH, 4OH, and 16OH, so that women understand that it isn't this sort of simple, just like you have too much estrogen or you don't, it's like it's that metabolite from personal experience, having had a large fibroid, like I know how important that estrogen metabolism is, and I've learned how, really with breast cancer, it's like that's almost the most important part, right? Is the estrogen metabolism, not just the estrogen number by itself at all.
Yeah, and estriol, which is when we
Mm-hmm.
prescribe bioidenticals, it's biased. It's
Mm-hmm.
mainly estriol.
Right.
Breast cancer protective, it's hitting the beta receptor, not the alpha receptor. So it's not proliferating, it's inhibitory. And so
Mm-hmm.
we
Mm-hmm.
just, it's kind of like with chemo, like an oncologist says, don't take any supplements while you're doing
Yeah.
chemo. And there are plenty of supplements that actually support you and the chemo treatments. And so to me, it just becomes lazy medicine. Like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, estrogen is dangerous. That's not true. If it was true when women were pregnant and their estrogen
Right.
was purging, we'd see high levels of breast cancer being diagnosed, or when girls were going through puberty and estrogen was coming on board, and we just don't see that.
Right. Right. Absolutely. It's so important. And that's why I love when people like you come on and really, you know, I know that a lot of times we have to hear these things over and over again from different people. And so many OBGYNs, as you mentioned, are not trained in this. I mean, I had a previous OBGYN who now practices functional medicine, and she just was straight up. She's like, you don't learn anything about the endocrine system really, and how it all works together in med school. It's like you learn to regulate hormones, you use birth control or surgery, and that's what it is, and it's crazy that that's what so many women, that's all we get, and that's not good at all. So when a woman is, say, in that maybe like middle perimenopausal time, do you find that bioidentical progesterone is often a good place to start, since that's, usually what's dipped first?
Yeah, I mean, that is often a game changer. And certainly if they're having symptoms and not sleeping and anxious and mood changes and water retention and some of those big things we see, then yes, that can certainly be a game changer. If they're having a lot of other symptoms, if they're having a lot of night sweats and stuff, I might do a 24-hour urine just to see what's going on with their estrogen, because the estrogen will drop early also at times. And we have to remember that, like, the hormones don't just drop when we stop menstruating. And so yes, I love helping women get rid of symptoms and feel good, but I'm really a big proponent in what the hormones are doing for prevention.
Right.
So we're already starting to have bone loss. We're already starting to see
Right.
changes in our arteries. We're already starting to see brain fog and mood reduction and cardio. All these things to me are really important. We want to make sure we're supporting you so that when you do have the one day of celebrating menopause, when you haven't had your cycle for 12 months, that you're already prepared and you're not in a deficit already, that we've been supporting you the whole way through.
That makes perfect sense. Do you prefer the oral version of progesterone then for women?
I use both actually,
Okay.
because the oral will cross the blood-brain barrier and have more of that GABA-like effect, but I don't find that it has the systemic effect that the cream will have. So I do both. And depending on what's going, if some women are really, really anxious and not sleeping, I might give a little higher dose of the oral, but I'm always giving both. I've just seen after all the years that if you just do one, it doesn't cover all bases. So.
That makes sense, because it's so much is metabolized into allopregnanolone, right, when you take it orally, and so you only get a 20% or so of that oral. Yeah. And in terms of, I know you mentioned before in menopause you will do the urine test. Does the topical progesterone show up in the urine test?
So anyone who's on oral urine, when they do a 24-hour hormone test, their progesterone often will be quite elevated. That's what we normally see. And so the top, I have them apply it to mucosal tissue because there's better absorption and you don't get the dermal fatigue. So we will see it show up for sure. It definitely does. But the oral definitely will pop it up. So you just have to take that into account, because I think, again, a lot of women are misled. Oh, your levels are too high and now we're going to take you down. And then you can't sleep and you're cranky and you're anxious. And so it's really important you find someone to work with who's looking at you first and foremost, and then correlating the blood work or the urine test or whatever, stool test, whatever testing you're doing. But you come first, especially when it comes to your thyroid and your hormones, because lab tests, they're not 100%, they all have their limitations and ranges and what's a good range for you. For example, like women who are taking thyroid hormone, or we're looking at their thyroid function and their free T3 level, a lot of patients don't feel good sometimes till they're up over the normal range, the high end. So if the high end is 4.4 or whatever it is, I think, Some women have to be at 5, and a doctor
Mm.
would look at that and be like, "Oh my God, you're
Yeah, yeah,
hyperthyroid."
yeah, totally.
But I'm
Yep.
like, the patient is actually fine and actually now feeling good. She's not having any hyperthyroid symptoms. So
Yes.
we're not going to lower your thyroid dose. We're just going to
Yeah.
watch you.
One of my colleagues, she her focus is on thyroid health, and she has Hashimoto's, and is on um both Armor and then extra free T3, and she needs to be up around 6 actually.
Mhm.
And it's like she luckily works with a great naturopath who they've been able to figure out that's where she feels best, and so, which a regular doctor, like you said, would like freak out if it was that high, but that's the reality, and so, yeah, I love that message for women, that why it's so important to find a really good practitioner that understands these things. So, it's tough in a state like North Carolina where naturopaths can't prescribe medication. And I know that that's, different for every state. In Arizona, I take it that you can prescribe
I
medication.
am in Arizona.
Gotcha. You're like, that's what took me here.
Because we actually have our full scope here.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think we're licensed now in 25 or 28 states. We're
Okay. Getting there. Yeah. Cause
we're
I used to
getting
live in
there.
California, and that was
And now
wonderful
we're
there.
licensed in
Yeah. Yeah.
California.
It was, totally fantastic, because that goal is obviously, where integrative can be best, if we do need to be on certain medications, especially thyroid, because that's such a huge impact for women, so many women, especially as they age, right?
Mhm.
And I mean, I know, as working with my thyroid myself, like, I'm grateful for over the counter glandulars, but that doesn't always do enough.
No, it really, I have kind of become a real big fan of bioidenticals because I just think that, I don't know, somewhere we decided like, well, I want to do things as naturally as I can. So I'm not going to take the bioidentical hormone. I'm going to take a glandular, or I'm going
Right.
to take selenium, or I'm going to take iodine. And I'm not sure where that really came to be, because it's not like, um, an herb is something that we're missing.
Right.
Like if the organ's not
Right.
functioning. And so I've just seen so many women suffer because they're trying to avoid bioidentical hormone,
Yeah.
may that be thyroid or progesterone or estrogen. And it's a big thing even in my field and with colleagues and so forth. And so I'm just like, I want you to feel good. Like,
Yeah.
we're going to live a long time postmenopausal, longer than our ancestors did. And we want to age with quality and quantity. And
Yes.
my caveat is, if I'm prescribing hormones for you, well, then you're going to do the other stuff. And so we're going to be looking at your terrain, and we are
Mm-hmm.
making sure your lymphatic system is flowing, and we are going to make sure that your dental health is optimal, and that you don't have
Mm-hmm.
toxins, and that you're eating good and sleeping and all. So I won't prescribe hormones or refill hormones if women just think they're going to slip in and just get some hormones and not the other stuff. So we have this whole system where we're like, wait, you cannot have a refill.
Yes, that's so good, right? Because I think I've been talking about this a lot lately, with one of my clients that actually just came up last week. Um, this is a time and opportunity where we have to take our health into our own hands too. And that means, right, these real changes that we have to make. We have to pay attention to what our body is telling us. We have to make these changes. We have to not just take this pill that's prescribed to us in order, it's because this client was like, okay, tell me how much I need to take a day of these things. And I was like, we need to pay attention a little bit to how your body's responding here, and then we'll go based off of that. And she's like, and I'm like, this is the gift actually that I'm giving you of reconnecting with your body, so that really quickly if something's working for you or not, and then we figure out what else needs to be done to support it.
Well, and that's why I write menopause with the parentheses around pause. That's why the summit is called Mastering the Menopause
Mhm.
Transition,
Mhm.
because I'm very passionate. I am a mindfulness meditation teacher,
Mm.
med school, and I'm very passionate about the power of pausing, the power of connecting
Mm.
to ourselves, whether it be when we're taking a supplement, are we just throwing it down our throat,
Mm.
next thing, or are we stopping and giving gratitude and thinking about what this is going to do, and gratitude to ourselves for seeking help, and gratitude to whoever prescribed it to us, and gratitude to the people who made the vitamin or
Yeah.
supplement or whatever. And it has such a different impact on us when we swallow it and we're in gratitude and grace and really connecting. And so I always say not all medicine comes in a pill bottle. And I really
Mm,
believe that the choices we make and how we live our life and how we connect with nature and how we prioritize sleep and how we are in our relationships, and are we in our joy, and are we in our passion, these are the things that really build health. And then we get to take the pills, the supplements, the bioidenticals as this great icing on top.
I love that. And it kind of takes us back to what we talked about in the beginning of, I think that's the norm in a lot of those traditional cultures, right? All the things you just said, people are kind of naturally doing it. And we have become so disconnected from those aspects of our lives because we're sort of told to push all the time and just move forward and do all these things, right? And for me, one of the things that I love about, well, my experience of having a fibroid in my late 30s and everything that happened with that, but also just the deeper I get into my 40s, is the recognition of the boundary setting, the, really checking in with myself consistently all the time on all the things, like, is this working for me or is this not? Am I doing what I want to be doing, or am I doing what I think I should be doing?
Mhm.
And that's what makes me excited for these next years of my life, right? Just getting deeper and deeper into that, instead of during my 20s and 30s it was all about, well, what should I be doing? What is expected of me in all these ways in my life.
Yeah, it's a precious life we have, and
Mm.
it goes, it's really true. As you get older, it goes quicker and quicker.
It does. It's so true.
And
Yeah.
so what are we going to do with it? And I talk about a lot my eulogy exercise, where I like for women to write out their eulogy. How would you
Mm,
be eulogized when it's time for you to transition?
mhm.
And then can you reverse engineer and live into that? Because often the things that we want to be remembered for, or that we contributed, we're not really doing, because we're thinking, oh, someday I'll get to do that. Oh, if this
Mhm.
happens, I'll go take that dance class, or I'll go sign up for that volunteer position.
Mhm.
And it's really about thinking about it now and making space for it, because we
Mhm.
all get the same 24 hours. You better be sleeping at least 8 of them. And so what are we going to do with that time? And especially nowadays, it's so easy. And I can be guilty of this too. I'm
Mhm.
not like sitting here like I'm amazing and you're not,
Yeah.
I'm human too. But, you could like just scroll Facebook and all of a sudden
Oh,
an hour
man.
has gone by, or you could be binging a Netflix series and now 5 hours have gone by.
Yeah.
And so when we say we don't have enough time, another thing I'll have patients do is we talk about doing food diaries, but I'll have
Mhm.
them do time diaries. Like, what are you
Mm.
doing? What's going on
Mhm.
in your life? Like, you woke up and did you spend 45 minutes greeting the sun and putting your feet on the earth and having a nice cup of warm water with some lemon?
Mhm.
Or did you wake up and you're on your
Pull
phone,
out the
and
phone. Yep.
now it's an hour later and you're like, I gotta get ready for work. And
Yep.
so how are we? I think one of the things that I have learned and appreciated and teach more and more is about having your nervous system regulated.
Mhm.
Do
Mhm.
you feel peace? Do you feel joy? Can you live in parasympathetic land? Because
Yeah.
we can't heal if we're stuck in our fight or flight,
Yep.
and if our sympathetics, and I do a lot of heart rate variability testing,
Mhm.
and I can tell you that the average bear is stuck in sympathetic. And especially as I work with patients dealing with serious issues such as cancer or
Oh,
serious
yeah.
autoimmune diseases. And so we have to really think about, and so we don't necessarily reduce the stress factor just by taking some curcumin,
Right.
just by eating organic
Yep.
broccoli, or
Yep.
having a salad or a power smoothie. It's really who we are when we're doing these things. And so
Yep.
that's where mindfulness and breath and consciousness and really looking at your life and you are the master of your life.
Mm.
No
Mm.
one's no one's going to do it for you,
Mhm.
even your best friend or your spouse or
Or your
relative.
practitioner, or
I'll
yeah,
make some suggestions,
yeah.
but you're the one who's got to go home and integrate them. Like I have my, before we got on, my assistant, I had prescribed some phosphatidylserine for a patient who wasn't sleeping and her cortisol was
Mhm.
high. And we had had a big lifestyle conversation. And my assistant
Mhm.
said, she's going to not order that because she wants you to know she's tuned it down. She's off her phone at night. She's getting into her body and she's starting to sleep well. And I was like,
Oh, yes, such a winner. I know.
I
I
was like,
know.
good. She doesn't need it. She's, that's what we
Yeah.
really, that's where the healing really comes, when
Yes.
we can have someone change who they're being and their interaction in their life. Taking supplements is easy.
Right, right. And I had this conversation with a client earlier today, especially when you see that cortisol out of whack. I'm like, there's going to be some support from supplements, but that's not going to get you out of this. Like, you absolutely have to change your lifestyle in whatever kind of ways you can get into that parasympathetic nervous system. Because, especially with my very high functioning clients, right, that are just able to sort of handle all the things. I'm like, yeah, you're able to handle all the things, but then we see this right here that your body's not happy with handling all those things, And I love the discussion of focusing on mindfulness, because that's what we've gotten away from so much. And then, really so much of what that plays into our circadian rhythm, and our circadian rhythms being off it's such a huge underlying factor for so many health issues, right?
Absolutely. And interesting enough, when I teach mindfulness and we
Mm-hmm.
have people lie on the floor to do a body scan, these high functioning people who aren't tired
Yeah.
fall asleep within like
Yes.
3 seconds, because we're just pushing, pushing, pushing. And
Yep.
often, and it's the same for how we feel. Often we don't realize, and that's why I love doing a really thorough intake with a patient, because
Mm-hmm.
I can pull out other things that they're like, oh yeah, I don't sleep, or I guess I don't
Yes.
have energy, or I guess I do have much, that we don't even think about, because we've just been trained to, the gold star comes when you accomplish things. And I'm like, I will give you a gold star for sitting and meditating, enjoying the sunshine, and going
Right.
to bed at the right time. Like, those where I'm going to give you lots of gold
Yep.
stars.
All those gold
So,
stars, you get it that way. Yeah.
and the thing with cortisol, and I'm sure you see this too, but I do a lot of salivary circadian
Mm-hmm.
testing, and we think that everyone is stuck in high cortisol,
Mm-hmm.
and so many patients have like been there, done that, got the
Mm-hmm.
little sticker, they have
Mm-hmm.
already crashed, they're already
Mm-hmm.
flatlined, and so we
Mm-hmm.
actually have to build back up their cortisol
Yep.
reserve. And so, yeah, the adrenals are not it's not a quick fix. It's not
Mm-mm.
a 3-day plan to heal your adrenals.
Mm-mm.
And
Mm-mm.
you really you have to get the lifestyle stuff down, because ashwagandha or bioidentical cortisol or B5 or vitamin C or whatever your choice is, whatever
Mm-hmm.
you're doing, is only going to get you so far. And speaking from experience, yeah, I burnt my adrenals out
Mm.
many, many years ago,
Yeah.
single mother going through med school or doing a massage practice, and so,
Yeah.
and then running a clinic, and my adrenals were torched.
I
And
bet.
it's something that even now at 54, I still, like, if I were to pull an all-nighter or something, my adrenals would be like,
Mm-hmm.
and they would act up for a few days, let me know, don't be pulling this,
Yep.
and I remember in my 20s, I used to think it was so cool that I only needed 4 hours of sleep a night. And
Mm-hmm. And now women are like, I'm desperate for 4 hours of sleep a night.
I'm like, I'm a minimum 8-hour girl.
Yeah.
If I don't get my sleep, I am one cranky woman.
A
And
hundred
so
percent.
I
Yep.
I learned that in med school, that sleep, yeah. And I know we're all, in those listening, like, I'm at this stage in my life, my kids are old, I have grandkids now, so I have a lot more space,
Mm-hmm.
myself,
Mm-hmm.
I have lots of room for self-care.
Mm-hmm.
And but when I was in my late 20s, early 30s, I was a single mom raising my two boys, going to med school, I was homeschooling them at a point, like,
Oh
I
my
was
goodness.
hot. And I had to prioritize. And so I always say, like, if you're in that busy stage of life, just find your non-negotiables. Like for
Mm-hmm.
me, it was sleep, it was meditation, and it was getting some exercise. I needed typo, I needed to move my body. And those were like the three things that I knew I needed just to stay afloat. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
have time for a warm bath or dance in the rain or whatever, but I did my non-negotiables to get
Mm-hmm.
me through. And so often, and it's funny because I would be in med school and we'd be having it'd be finals week.
Mm-hmm.
And I would go get a massage, and like all my classmates would be staying up like 18 hours studying. I remember seeing them all at the picnic table in the back of the school, and they'd be like, "Where are you going?" I'd be like, "Going to get a massage. It's like the most stressful week. I got to
Yeah.
de-stress." And so and they'd all have their donuts and their coffee. And I'm like, "What kind of naturopath saw
Yeah,
you?"
I know, right? You're like, that's not supposed to happen in naturopathic school. Come
And
on.
so I think that's a thing also when we go through a more stressful period, for some reason we want to throw out our self-care
Yeah.
practices. And that's when you really need to cling to them like they're your lifeboat and
Yes.
really, utilize them to help get you through that time.
100%. And I see that so often with clients because there's a lot of stressful things happening, I mean, all of the time. I mean, between, even thinking about one of my clients who's in her 60s, and you think, oh, that may be a more relaxing time of life, but she started, her own business after
Yeah.
she after she retired from her other job, and then her parents are still alive, so they're going through some hard transitions in life and things like that. And so there's always these pockets in life of just stress coming in, and it's so easy to grab the easy food or push through with the coffee and all of those things when you're caught in that. And that is when we need to be able to get in, even if it's just 5 minutes of taking some
Mhm.
deep breaths, right? Or sitting outside in the morning, go outside first thing and just sit there in nature. And that's going to be, and I know it's hard. I know it's hard when everything in your mind is like, no, no, you got to go, you got to take care of all the things, but that you almost have to work against that drive, right?
Well, that's why having a meditation practice, a mindfulness practice can really help ground you
Hmm.
and sustain you and give you that bigger perspective. And that's such a good point you brought up, because yes, just because we're older and our kids, if we've had kids, are
Hmm.
grown, doesn't mean we're not dealing with aging parents.
Hmm.
My grandmother used to say, little kids, little problems, big kids, big problems. And so, still have family problems.
Yeah.
And yes, like that's great. She started a new business at 60. And I
Hmm.
talk to women about that all the time. Like this is our time to birth creativity, birth
Hmm.
our dreams, to birth our passions.
Hmm.
And so this is an exciting time. Like I just started I'm running a summit, and this is
Hmm.
a whole new business for me. And it has
Yeah.
been a ton of work, and I'm happy to do it because I'm so passionate about getting information out
Yes.
to women and letting them know their options. And so it's a joy, but it's a lot of work. And so I've had to regulate, okay, how am I gonna balance this in my life? And to
Hmm.
me, I have my health, what is that, this corny saying, your health is your wealth, but it's
Hmm.
really true. If you don't
Hmm.
have your health and you don't feel good and you're not happy, then nothing else really matters.
Hmm. Hmm. Yep.
So we have to put ourselves first. Self-care
Absolutely.
is not optional. It is not selfish. It is mandatory. And
Absolutely.
it's a way of, having a love affair with yourself is putting yourself first.
Ah, I love that. So I do want to talk about the upcoming summit here in a minute, but first, can you tell people about your program, the Red Hot Menopause program?
Yes. So
Yeah.
I came up with red because like red, red, red. I'm
Mm-hmm.
I'm very red. And I do a lot of work with colors for healing,
Mm-hmm.
and whether it be looking at psychological, what colors you're attracted to, or actually using color puncture into your body if you're with me physically.
Oh.
shifting patterns and thoughts and organs and flow and all of these things. So, but RED stands for Reinvent Your Health, Explore Your
Mm,
Spirit, and Discover Your Sexy. And it's really
mm,
my take on the mind body paradigm. I feel like most of us, not all of us, but many of us tend to like be in one camp more than the other. I've seen this with patients over the years. So I have patients who will swallow 3,000 supplements if I tell them to. And if I told them they have to chop their carrots into squares because they get better absorption, they would do that. So they're really focused
yeah.
on the body stuff. They'll do all their testing, they will take all their supplements, they'll be anal with their diet. But then when I want to talk about their childhood and how they didn't have a very easy upbringing, they don't want to go there. So they're very like focused in the body.
Yep.
And then we have the opposite. I lovingly remember a patient of mine who was dealing with breast cancer, and she was amazing. She was so clear on why she had breast cancer and the relationship with her son and the whole spiritual psycho-emotional aspect of it, which is super important. But then she would like come to my office and like smoke a cigarette before she could come in my office. We had like these glass windows, and I'm like, what is she doing? And she just totally believed that her mind could heal it.
Right. Hmm.
And
Hmm.
and you know, for some people, maybe it can, for most of us mere mortals,
It's not gonna.
we need the combination. And
Yeah.
so reinventing your health is all about the physical. Let's get your container, your
Hmm.
vessel optimized.
Yeah.
And then let's do the important work of exploring your spirit, of
Yeah.
looking at your emotions, of looking at past traumas, big T, little
Yes.
t, they're all
Yes.
important, of learning to meditate, of being in nature. And then when we kind of have this all balanced out, it's like then we can go out and discover our sexy, our passions, our gift, because now we're a balanced emotional, spiritual being. Our physical body is balanced.
Mm.
Now we don't have to be distracted by I don't feel good, I have a headache, my back
Hmm.
hurts, I'm carrying anger, it's affecting my liver, all these things. And so
Hmm.
then we get to figure out like what we're here for and what we want to do. And sexy is so much more than big boobs and a nice butt. I mean, you know, that might be sexy
That works
too,
too.
but you know, it's how you think, it's
Yep.
how you are, it's how you move, it's how you express yourself, it's how you contribute. And so I feel like it's different for all of us. And I want us to really embrace this idea that we can all be sexy in our own unique ways.
Hmm. Hmm. Oh, so good. I love all of that. Yeah, and I talk a lot about that, the trauma component that I think so many people miss out on, and mindset too, right? And kind of like you said, it's like you have to get all those things together, and then that mindset can just take you to the next level, especially with getting into that sexiness for sure. Oh, so good. So before we go, let's hear about this upcoming summit. I'm excited to hear more.
It's called Mastering the Menopause Transition. And whether you are thinking about menopause, through menopause, not in menopause, far away from menopause, there is like information for all of you.
Hmm.
Because of what I said in the beginning, I really believe it's a continuum, and things that we do to master our menopause transition are things we can do to master our health in our teens and our 20s and our 30s as well.
Hmm.
And so I really wanted to just start putting out information in one concise place for women to really hear a different conversation, to really change their mindset, their thought, the things they're doing physically, to understand what they should be asking their doctors for. And so that it is going to be airing September 20th through 27th.
Nice.
I have interviewed like 60 people or something.
Oh my goodness, that's amazing.
I kind of went overboard.
I know. I'm like,
um,
my last summit, I think, was 28 or 29. I can't imagine.
and I already have Mastering the Menopause Transition Summit 2.0 slated. So we're gonna have to get you interviewed for that one.
Yeah.
That'll be next year.
Yeah, that'll be
Um,
fun.
but it's just going to be a lot of fun, from diet tips to mindset tips to breathing tips to
Hmm.
about your thyroid and your adrenals and bioidentical hormones and sex and orgasms and just
All the good stuff.
everything that's important as for women that we've kind of been gypped out of by
Yeah.
the mainstream society and by traditional physicians.
Yes, yes. So good. And I love that you're sharing all this information with women, and everybody get signed up at that. We will have the link for people to sign up and everything too. So make sure you get your spot. Thank
Yes.
you so much for being
Oh,
here with
thank
us today.
you.
Such a
No.
good conversation. I think that, yeah, I'll say it one more time, that I love talking to people like you that really take this truly holistic approach. And, you just emanate, right, that what it is to move into this space of life, the menopausal time of life, of just really like doing it and doing it well. Yeah,
Thank you. I love being
absolutely.
here and chatting with you. Like
Yeah.
my sister, you are.
Absolutely. All right, you guys, thanks for being here, and I will see you next time.
Hi, everyone.